For the first time in the 2017-18 season, the Golden Knights failed to show up in their biggest game as the Washington Capitals win a pivotal game number 3-1, taking a 2-1 series lead. Hello, I'm Brian Sound with your Golden Edge recap, Stanley Cup Playoff Edition. First Stanley Cup Finals game in DC in 20 years, and the Capitals come up way short in the pregame theatrics, countering the Vegas intro from Michael Buffer with Pat Sajak in a light show that paled in comparison to T-Mobile's intro. However, when it came to the game on the ice, the Capitals showed up huge. After a scoreless first period, Washington outscores the Golden Knights in the second 2-0. Goal number 1 of the night, Alex Ovechkin, scoring on the 5th shot in a sequence when the Capitals turned up the heat high on Marc-Andre Fleury. 1-0 Caps. Later, Evgeny Kuznetsov, a game-time decision, capitalizes on a terrible play by Shea Theodore, adds the second goal in the period, his 12th of the playoffs, in a 2-0 lead heading into the third. Early in the third period, the Golden Knights, well, they finally show some life. Pierre-Edouard Bellemare makes a great hustle play that leads to a Tomas Nosek goal, cutting the lead in half, but Washington would add another goal on yet another miscue from Theodore, giving the Caps a 3-1 lead, and folks, that's how the game would end. So, for more on game number 3, let's head to DC with columnist Ed Graney and sports reporter Adam Hill. Guys.
Hey everyone, it's Ed Graney and Adam Hill here live in Washington, D.C. at the Capital One Arena. The Washington Capitals tonight took control of this best-of-7 Stanley Cup final, beating the Golden Knights 3-1. They now lead the series 2-1. We'll host Game 4 here on Monday night. Adam, let's go over this latest game. It appears, I think you and I both agreed, Washington controlled this thing throughout. And if Vegas can't start getting more shots on net, and if they can't start creating some kind of rush and transition, this is going the other way right now as we speak.
Yeah, it's pretty clear from game 1 where Vegas played by far their best game of the series. It's gotten progressively worse from there. So clearly they have to turn things around. But I think one of the biggest things today is forget this game ever happened. I mean, we're going over right now. You would think that this team is going to burn the tape and not watch it because there were some really, really ugly things that I don't think they'd want to pay attention to. The couple of players, and namely Shea Theodore, that had just had a terrible night. And I think one of the keys at this point of the season, you've been doing it for so long, you've had a good season. I don't think you want to overthink it and start, hey, let's watch the tape and see what we can do better. And I think you just move on and say, hey, listen, this happened, it's over. Let's try to get back to our game and forget about that, move forward. And if they can't do that, I think it's going to spiral out of control real quick. Yeah,
I absolutely agree. I wrote for tomorrow's paper at thereviewjournal.com. You know, Gerard Gallant, the head coach of Vegas, likes to say after every game, win or loss, stay with the plan, stay with the game plan, stay with what we do, just play our game. That's fine, and it's worked so far, but their game isn't good enough right now. I'm not saying make wholesale changes or becoming a different team, but you better figure out why Washington now has you figured out. Tonight, 26-9 in hits. Washington's just playing harder. They're getting to pucks faster. They're beating the Golden Knights at the blue line. I mean, they're doing everything. And you have Braden Holtby right now in goal, who's terrific. Marc-Andre Fleury had a good game tonight. It could have been 5 or 6-1, but it stayed 3-1. But they better figure some things out by Monday night in terms of that blue line and getting their skating going and not being outskated by this team.
You mentioned all those stats, and there's one that you didn't even point out, which, it's one that you don't think of that often, but they were destroyed in faceoffs tonight. I mean, that's just a small thing that it's attention to detail. Get back to doing what you do. And again, don't think about this game too much. Go back to doing what you do. I mean, it might be too late soon, but you have to just kind of do that and move on. We talked about early in the series, teams that win game 1 at home are like 80% to win the Stanley Cup final. Well, now you're facing an exact opposite situation. When it's a 1-1, a team that wins game 3 wins 77.8% of the time. You can't think about it like that. Like, you were in control of the series before, now you're down in the series. It's one game at a time. It's get back. And by the way, if you can come back on Monday night in game 4 and get the win and split here in Washington, you have the home ice advantage back, and everything is back in your control. And this game tonight that was awful and horrific doesn't even matter.
Absolutely. Monday night they have an opportunity to take back control of the series, but they're going to have to change some things. It's not time to panic. It's time to play better if you're the Golden Knights. We'll see after Monday night where the series is, and if it's 3-1, then the P word will come into it. But for right now, they have tomorrow. They're not going to practice. They'll have availability. And I think maybe, Adam says don't watch the film. I don't know if they do, but they will discuss some things, and they're going to have to figure out why this is being slipped away the last few games. So there you have it. Final here from Capital One Arena. 3-1. The Washington Capitals have grabbed a 2-1 lead in the Stanley Cup Final. For Adam, Ed, Zach, Elaine, Ron, Steve, David, all of us, all our photographers, Chase, Benjamin from the Review Journal, all of us here working for you and to bring you the coverage. Follow it all at reviewjournal.com and at The Golden Edge.
All right, fellas, thank you very much. Now, there are a couple firsts in tonight's game. It was the first time the Golden Knights had lost back-to-back games in these playoffs, and it was the first win on home ice in the Stanley Cup Finals ever for the Washington Capitals. So, for Ed and Adam in DC, I'm Brian Salmon with your Golden Edge recap, Stanley Cup Playoff Edition. We'll see you next time.